Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for SteelOrbis and for the sponsors of this event. That's very good to have, linking and, bridging the different views from different regions. I would, recall from the morning session what Milton Hanem was saying about collaboration. And I think that might be the part that I'm going to close my presentation with, because we have been suffering from many challenges. And I think collaboration might be a way forward. So without taking much of your time in the introduction, we are going to tackle and touch base, about the economy indicators, about the global industry impact, because everyone is being, affected by the global industry impact. Then a little bit of focus on Egypt, the largest steel producer in, let's say the MENA region or North Africa and GCC, excluding Turkey and Iran. Outlook of the regional trade flow between the MENA region, between North Africa particularly, and EU, and a bit of focus between Italy, Egypt, Algeria, Morocco. We will touch base on that also, and then we spend a few slides on the decarbonization era that we are all living and trying to correlate with the CBAM. So a little bit about Marakby Steel, so that you also have this flavor, only one slide. Marakby Steel is the #1 steel producer with lowest carbon emission out of Egypt, of no surprise, and honestly speaking, with no huge efforts, because basically you are scrap-based. So our carbon emission for the 3 scopes is 620 kg per ton of steel. That was the statistics that is about to be released by World Steel Association for 2023 data. And later on in the slides, you are going to see our results on the CBAM, because we are active member in exporting to EU and on reporting our carbon emission in accordance with the CBAM. We are #3 in terms of long steel exports out of Egypt. We are #4 in terms of market share in the domestic sales. We are having let's say with the new inflated prices in Egypt, I would say our revenue will be 20 billion plus Egyptian pound. Same like investments, we are employing more than 150,000 people, more than 125 local customers, 35 projects we are certified in, 55 consultants we are approved, 25 governmental entities we are approved also with, 115 international customers for export, and 36 countries we are exported to. So I'll try to skip the slide that we are been listening for very interesting presentations in the morning, so I'll try to skip some parts. This one is about the economical indicators, the growth rate. We are always, as per every year, we are expecting bigger growth, as always. And then, it turned to be tough to achieve in the past few years. But this is the 3.2% expected for last quarter in 2024, and going forward, it will be 3.3%. The inflation is eased down, but still the service prices are still high. Let's see what will happen. Oil prices rose actually not only 4%, it already rose 8%, touching $80 per barrel. This oil prices is very sensitive to what's happening in the Middle East. And then with what Israel done for this Hezbollah leader, and then Iran missile strikes to Israel. So let's see what will happen. We are also recalling from the morning session when Paolo was saying about Italy is around 1% growth rate, wherein in our region, in the GCC, in North Africa, the GDP growth rate is completely different. You are seeing amazing numbers in Saudi Arabia. They are going into too many projects. They are about to host the World Cup later on, and also the Expo. Emirates also today, they are announcing they are trying to get the best use of this Expo city that I bet most of us visited either one time or during the COP last year or whatever, or during the Expo itself. They are going to try to use it for office facilities, DB World Trade. They are trying to have their main office there. So many projects are there. Egypt also, of no difference, a lot of, let's say, inhabitants, big population, and too many projects as well. So we can see the slight difference between the regional GDP growth rate on average and per country when compared to the EU and country like Italy, for example. But also we can see the difference in the, in the GDP itself. So even if Italy, I don't know, yeah, if Paolo is still here or not, but even if Italy is having like 1% growth rate increase on average, but it's like touch $2.3 trillion economy, while the others who are growing a lot, we can see no one except Saudi that is just touching the 1 trillion. Countries like Emirates or Egypt, they are not even touching $500 billion. So it makes some differences as well. Very selective also economic indicators that we all try to reach out or to follow to make our daily decisions, like the inflation rate, the interest rate, and the purchase manager index for manufacturing. We see also that countries like Italy and Egypt, they are suffering. They are below 50. This is the index. If you are below 50, then you are having shrinkage. If you are above 50, then you are having growth. So we can see that Italy and Egypt, they are not doing great. Still, the Gulf and Algeria, they are doing brilliant. Don't forget that they are oil-driven economy so far, I would say. They are trying to diversify a lot, but they are still oil-driven economy. And with the crisis in the Middle East, they are doing better. Interest rate in Egypt is skyrocketing. We are speaking about 28.25%. We are having, let's say, like hard skin. So when people were crying around the corner here in the EU for the 5 or 6%, you know, for us, this is something, yeah, we get used to a lot. So anyways, but okay, we believe that the inflation will be eased down. We hope, because this is very necessary for the economy, and then the interest rate will follow, and this is very necessarily for spending and for investments. This is a deep dive into Egypt, because it is, as I said, the largest steel producer in GCC and North Africa, and, you know, always crisis with the currency. So the good part is that in the financial year that ends 30th of June in Egypt, we are having this year surplus of close to $10 billion of overall balance of payment, but still we are suffering a lot from the trade balance. It's having a ridiculous, you know, deficit of $40 billion. Our imports are almost double our exports. But what helped us a lot with the generous, you know, investment and support from Emirates. So they came to us. They send us $35 billion for an investment in the North Coast. I bet there is a big developer out of Egypt called Talat Mustafa Group, TMG. They did a big TV campaign with Sylvester Stallone, our favorite, you know, young time hero. I'm not sure if any of you have seen that or that, like, you know, a new star rising on the Mediterranean, the real Mediterranean. So it will be in the North Coast, and this is like $35 billion came from Emirates, very generous one, and that helped us to save our year, because till March we were suffering a lot, but starting from 6th of March we had this devaluation of the currency in Egypt, and the official exchange rate today is 48.4. It turned out into a very good move. True, the interest rate hiked a lot by 6% to 28.25%, as you have seen in the previous slide. But still, it helped us a lot. We are still trying to survive. The IMF is on top of our heads. You know, we are having like a review, and each review stays like, you know, I don't know, like a quarter, and then a lot of removal for the subsidy, a lot of changes happening in the market, inflation, tightening spending, etc. So sometimes it's not so good. Not judging the IMF, but, you know, you also need money for the investments. So maybe today you are having dollars, but maybe we don't have enough Egyptian pound. They suck out of the system the money that they used to print without a formal coverage of gold or dollars. I'm not supposed to say that, but this is the reality. So maybe we can open LCs now for imports. There's no problem, but we don't have enough spending in the local currency to run the economy and the projects, blah, blah, blah. I think we will reach a consensus, because the IMF will realize in a while that this is not going to work, you know. The tension on the Middle East and this challenges with the Red Sea is affecting a lot. So in the Suez Canal, we lost, like, you know, 25% of its, you know, income, because of, we can see that the number of ships moving through the Red Sea dropped drastically. So this is something is hitting us. But maybe it's being compensated by the increase of the worker remittances of Egyptian working abroad when there is one currency exchange in the banks. So the Egyptian working abroad stopped, you know, sending their money out of the system. So at least the growth in the work remittances balanced somehow this, drop in the Suez Canal proceeds. Moving now for the global industry impact. So demand drivers, we need to look on the per capita. So my friend Hussein just left, so that's why I will give him one. I'm joking. So China is a big issue for sure, because it's not about their percentage of exports at all. The problem is that their per capita steel is very, very high. They are consuming 600 kg per capita. And that means that it's not that they are having the half of the population to compensate the half of production and consumption. No, they are not half of the population. The interesting news, they are maybe what, 15% maybe? So 15% of the population, they are controlling 50% of the production and consumption. Okay, I'm not judging also or not saying fair or unfair, but this is why there is a huge elasticity in any change from their side. So it doesn't matter the percentage really, because any percentage will be too big to anyone. Honestly speaking, they are not the problem in my opinion. Their response is accelerating the problem. The main problem is the demand, like Alessandro was saying, because if there is a demand, everyone will be super happy. So this is the one. Italy also is doing great in the per capita consumption, while Egypt is not, unfortunately. Despite still the steel production and consumption figures, you will see not small, but still the per capita consumption is not big, and that's because we are not having big consumption for the flat. We are consuming steel still, but this is mainly long. So 80% of our consumption goes for the long. China, again, we cannot skip it. So the exports, I mean, there is a perfect correlation. I know it doesn't matter that my background is from engineering, or I get then my MBA, or I'm an economist or scientist or whatever. There is a perfect correlation with the exports of China and the dropping in the steel prices globally, of no surprise. We can see that when the exports are hiking up, the prices of the steel are going down. Very obvious. The good part about this part of the world and my part of the world is that so far so good in this year that the productions increased in the EU. As also Alessandro was saying, a little bit, yes, but this is good when the other parts of the globe are in a negative territories. And also in the Middle East, we can see that, like a couple of millions increase in the EU from 85 to 87 million. And in the Middle East, like 0.5 million increase. That's good. Italy is ranked number 11 in 2023, and this year number 12, doing like 14 million ton more or less, and Egypt around 17 so far. This is the 8 months, so this is not the full year. So that you are aligned, because Italy is doing more and Egypt is doing 10 million ton. Margins are being killed. We can see also that the operating profits are going down and down and down from 2021 onwards, and the net profit margins are doing bad. I cannot collect everyone in the globe. I just tried to get some data from the stock listed, companies, and each company is being represented by its, let's say, its legal entity. So if I'm speaking about Netherlands, you can bet on whom I'm speaking, on the second largest producer. In Egypt, on the largest producer in Egypt, and selective ones from USA, Turkey, and China. We can see that the margins are not there at all, and this is only the listed companies, not to mention about other companies whom I bet that they are doing even worse. So this is very tough for the industry. I mean, no one can survive this, especially with the very high interest rates. So imagine the interest rates are keeping going up, the financing cost is keeping going up, and your margins are keeping going down, which is completely ridiculous. Maybe in a while, people could go for bankruptcy. The steel decarbonization and CO2 emission is now part of the game. I'll touch base on later during the last part of the presentation, but you have seen this about, the scopes. And the good part is that today I have realized something I'll speak about as a challenge. We have different perception. If you are speaking about the 3 scopes, we are having a number, and if we are speaking about the 2 scopes, we are having another number. But in any case, it's obvious that if you are coming from electric arc furnace with a scrap-based, you are the lowest today. This is the lowest technology available of carbon emission. DRI electric arc furnace is higher, and BF, BOF is even higher. This is the part I told you about at the beginning of the presentation, wherein we have been already reporting our carbon emission according to the CBAM, and you can see that it's around 410, 420 kilogram per ton of steel. Egyptian steel industry was doing so far so good, as I said. Growth in the DRI production, growth in the crude steel production, which is good. You can see also some percentages on the Middle East, growth in the DRI production as well. This is the scrap imports. So Egypt is relying also on importing a lot of scrap, around 4 million ton a year, not as big as our elder brothers in Turkey, where they are importing maybe 24 million a year or 20 plus million. But still, Egypt is importing like 4 million tons, and that's mainly basically from the EU. We can see that UK, Belgium, Netherlands, and France, they are among the top 5, only Lebanon outside Europe. Billets, with the availability of the currency, Egypt is importing again a lot of billets. So last year, the estimate for the billet imports was below 1 million ton, same like the year before, but it seemed that this year will be closer to 2 million ton. Our estimate is 1.6, but maybe we can revise even if bigger. In 2023, the billets were coming from Russia, Belarus, Saudi Arabia, and this year Ukraine came back to the mainstream, so there is also Ukraine, good chunk of imports from there. Along with Russia, still Egypt is importing a lot of wheat, so not only steel, and Indonesia. This is affecting the utilization of local crude steel production. You can see to the other side of the chart that, you know, the more the billet is there, this is putting a pressure on the local crude steel production. Rebar consumption, we are like, you know, okay, in the past decade, we have been growing till you know, 2016, then we lost all what we have done as a growth in the steel. You can see the figures. We reached 8.6 million ton, but we are again back to 6.5. This year, we are expecting 6.87 million ton. And we are still importing some wire rod. So we are having trade remedy measures on the rebars, but not on the wire rod for drawing. So with the wire rod for drawing, we see some imports from Russia and China. Flat is suffering a lot from imports. So a lot of imports are coming. We are consuming around 1.5 million ton, but half of them, maybe more than half of them, is being imported from China and Turkey. In the exports, Egypt is normally a regular flat exporter for many years, but in the past 2-3 years, with the currency shrunk, with a lot of issues in the demand locally, we have seen that demand went down from 8.6 to, let's say, like 0.6 million ton, a lot of idle capacity and some challenges with the dollars. So the long exports as well went up to 1.5 million ton, and you can see that some of the countries that Egypt is trying to export to, not so many also are left, same like Turkey, but we are trying. This is very important part, the trade remedy measures. So Egypt is having quotas on the wire rod and HRC, and unfortunately there is a 15% cap, so the wire rod out of Egypt per quarter is only 18,000 ton only. The flat is a little bit higher, or good, let's say, compared with the HRC, around 140,000 tons. And the long is still, we don't have this 15% cap, but we are competing against China. So there is no point actually. And as steel is now subject to another anti-dumping case on the flat, hot rolled coils, which started in August 2024. I tried to put all the information so that when you read, you can find what you look for. Last part, I'll try to be quick. So on the correlation between, you know, the MENA region and EU, we can see that, you know, EU imports from MENA region, I wouldn't say that big. You know, they are EU is importing some HBI from Lesico, from Libya. They are importing some, you know, semi-finished product from Algeria, Oman, little bit, Emirate, very rare, and Saudi. Some long products from Egypt. But we see that the numbers are all, let's say, below 500,000 ton a year. You know, the flat products maybe, and then when it exceeds 500,000 ton, people complained and they bought as a steel in this anti-dumping case. While if we go for, you know, for the EU imports from other regions, I will come to that. EU exports, as Alessandro was saying, also with the time it's declining, maybe raw materials, which is scrap, some long products like beams, but flat products. Europe is exporting a lot. I mean, for Egypt, Europe still can export like 500,000 ton or something. When we go to the relationship between EU and China, we can still see that, you know, EU imports from China, they are still getting material like semi-finished products, flat products. So despite all the complaints about China, but still China is bringing to EU more than what Egypt can bring. Same like Turkey. or maybe more than what Middle East can bring. This is the EU imports from Turkey as well. We can see that the flat is around 2 million ton, 1.5 million ton, and the long product is more than 1 million ton. This is like, a correlation also between Italy, as I said, and some countries around. We can see that there is a good relation between Italy and Algeria, as well as, Libya, because of the oil. So we see that the imports of Italy, $15 billion from Algeria, $8 billion from Libya. This is mainly goes for the oil. The relationship on the steel is not so big. Exports from Italy to these countries are not so big also. Decarbonization era, no regrets. We all agree that we will go for decarbonization. We affected with one way or another. It's a fact. And no matter who started first or who contributed first or who contributed more, we should all engage in this decarbonization time. We spoke about this before. We said that the electric arc furnace scrap-based is a ready technology. We can go with the carbon capture then, and then maybe we can go for the green hydrogen and electrolyzer. That will take time for sure. Some announced project for decarbonization in the Middle East. This is a sample, but still there are more projects in Algeria as well. They are there. Those are the ones maybe in Egypt, Saudi, UAE, and Oman. Challenges, Alessandro was speaking about the overcapacity, like OECD. And the problem is that some of the coming overcapacity in the Far East will still come in the BF-BOF. So imagine we are all struggling to reduce the carbon emission, and some people still, they are going to put capacities in the Far East, which is still BF-BOF. Let's see how this will go. Big challenge for sure is the finance, the investments. We have been discussing also with our colleagues from Erdemir. I mean, if I recall well, this Duqm complex, in Oman, they are speaking about, let's say, I don't know, 5 billion euros, for like 5 million ton. So like a rough estimate by heart, it's not a proper calculation. We need now like 1 billion euro for each 1 million ton if we want to go more greener, which is really, I mean, I don't know, maybe 40, 50% more than the normal, let's say, investments. One of the challenges we were speaking also in the side discussions about the maturity. Not every country is mature with this, sustainability issues. We can see that Norway, UK, Canada, France, they are ahead of the curve. But of no surprise, US is not there, China, they are not there. So as long as not everyone is on the same page, we see some challenges to see this path for decarbonization. Another very big challenge is the too many standards for measuring the carbon emissions. We got lost. We need to measure according to different frameworks, different standards. Our company is engaged in this Steel Standard Principle Initiative by World Trade Organization and World Steel Association, trying to find a way to make statement to find like few standards. Not one standard, but at least try to minimize the number of standards. Policy landscape. This is rather another big challenge for this decarbonization. We will see with the CBAM, we will see CBAM from EU will be on a real place by beginning of 2026, followed by UK CBAM by 2027, and then US, they are talking about something, but not concrete. Opportunities for now, the scrap-based and the DRI, and that's why our region might be helping and supporting this green transition till other technologies are materialized. And also, our region, the region from where I'm coming, is full of opportunities for the renewables. So solar is there every time, everywhere, every day. And also the wind is still there, carbon capture, utilization, and storage, because it's oil-rich economies, so they are working a lot with this CCUS. I think they will come up with something very soon. So the region is full of opportunities. But the only thing that I learned in the past, let's say conferences, if someone is going to produce green hydrogen, it should stay where it is, because the transportation will be very tough. So instead of transferring the green hydrogen, we should think about transferring other materials. Maybe, I don't know, DRI, billets, HBI, etc. Last slide. So we know a lot of things. We know about the challenges of the economy, slow of demand, killed margins, overcapacity. China last week, they started with this big stimuli into announcements. We know about that. But we don't know what will happen next. We don't know what China will do, whether they are going to keep it or the market will collapse again. I would love to see another peaceful year, same like most of the previous 8 years. I don't want to see a year like 2015, where the prices tumbled and we had a recovery only on the spring of 2016. But let's see. About the hopes, we all hope everything will go positive, everything will be nice, like every year. In the past years, you know, this not happened. But as I said from beginning, it's all about collaboration. If we really try to find our ways, try to collaborate more. I mean, you cannot kill the imports. You cannot put trade remedy measures only or, you know, barriers only, because if you look on the global perspective, if EU is net importer on the steel, but EU is not importer on the cars, for example, on the automotive sector. So, I mean, you need to live, but you need to let others also live. Because, you know, those developing economies, they need also to export some here or there. I would rather say that the green steel or the decarbonization transition period is rather an opportunity from my perspective, not a barrier, but it all depends how we are going to manage. We are going to manage wisely, or are we going to do the same mistakes? If we do the same mistakes, we do not expect another result. Thank you very much.